Hey, hello, this is Praveen. Welcome to .NETgurukul.com for the ASP.NET Core Web API training from beginners to advanced. So today we are in module 1, like foundations of REST and Web API. So session 8, like session 8 is like HTTP status codes. Okay, so there are series of status codes, like there are 2 series, okay, there are 4 series and 5 series, okay, and like we will try to understand this particular HTTP status codes and with the categories, and like we will also understand like why REST APIs must return status codes. Okay, let's get started. So understanding HTTP status codes. HTTP code states tells the client what happens to that request. Okay, they act like response language between the client and the server. See, basically you have to understand like the communication between your client and the server will happen with your HTTP request and HTTP response, like in the JSON format, right? And it also like with the HTTP status codes. Okay, so there are three things here, like in HTTP request, HTTP response, as well as the HTTP status codes. Okay, status codes determines like with what happened at the server. Okay, whether the transaction has been successful or a failure, or it is some having some not found or anything like with this, which tells something about what happened at the server side. Okay, so here if we can see, we can categorize this status codes into these categories. Like, so you have 2 series, okay, you have 2 series, and you have 4 series, and you have 5 series. Okay, so basically, like 2 series, like can explain you like that what happened at the server. So there is okay response, like in this, in the transaction was successfully. Okay, so the request has been successfully processed. Okay, so it is telling us something about this, what happened at the server. Okay, so generally this particular 200 will happen at get and put. Okay, so I can say that the request has been successfully happened, and we have read the data. Okay, so like in post I'm just inserting certain data in on the server side. Okay, so in that thing, like I have to return like in 201. Okay, like similarly then when there is no content, like I'm going to have this particular 204. Okay, so I will connect to my tab and explain you this in detail. Okay, so if you can, before we jump, like if you can see here, like I have this HTTP status code from the client and the server. Okay, so how this happen for the get request. Okay, so for get request I'm returning for this 200. Okay, for insert, like in the post, I'm returning the 201. Okay, and so on. Okay, so let's get connected to my tab. Okay, yeah, it's got connected. So let's understand HTTP status codes. Okay. So like in this particular status code, I have 2 series. Okay, so let's understand the 2 series first. Okay, I have this client over here. Okay, client request. Okay, and I have this particular server. Okay, we already know that the HTTP request and the HTTP response will happen in the JSON format, right? Like, see here, I have this particular HTTP request here. So let's say get. Okay, so something like HTTP colon something like an API slash products. So I'm searching certain products over here. Like, let's say that products is like the product ID or the product name. Let's say the product name is laptop. Okay, I'm searching for the laptop in the products list. Okay, so in this case, I can return this okay response, right? Like once if I found that particular thing, I will return okay response, like which is nothing but your 200. Okay, if it is not found, I'm not. If it is not found, I'm going to return 400, 404. Okay, something like this. Okay, so in this particular thing, like let's say I have this particular post, like in terms I'm inserting certain products into the server. Okay, I have this client, I have this server. Okay, I'm just posting certain list of products over here. Okay, so in this thing I just wanted to return 201. So which is 201 is test cells that is created. Okay, so similarly for with your deleted, like in your deleted, I have this client and the server. So I wanted to send this delete request, like in delete, I wanted to delete certain things. So if it is after deleting, so at the server side doesn't return any content back to this click. So in this case, I will return no content. So which is 204. Okay, so I hope you understand with these two series, like in this thing. See here, I have this particular GET API on the first one. See on the GET API. So if I'm requesting certain products, and the products, if I find and that particular transaction is processed, then that particular request is processed, I'm getting 200. Okay, and if it is not found, I'm just returning 404. Okay, something like this. Okay, so in the post, like in this particular post on the second, like in this post, like if it is inserted successfully, I'm just saying that it is already created. Okay, it is created. So similarly for the which is delete, like in delete after the transaction happened, the delete transaction happened at the server, there is no content to return, right? So there is no response to return once it is deleted, right? So in that particular case, I will return 204. Okay, so understand for the get, like I'm using okay 200, for like in the post like 201, and in delete I'm using 204. So let understand with the 4 series. Okay, 4 series, like if you can see, like I have this 404. So I'm requesting certain data from the server. Okay, so in that particular case, like I will see that there is no records for that request, so I will get an 404 error. So nothing found. Okay, so I have this client and I have this server. Okay, so I will return with 404. Okay, so I'm adding, let's say I'm trying to get request over here. So any of the request, I'm just trying to read a file which does not exist. Okay, I'm just reading certain product which does not exist. Okay, so in that case, I should return with 404. Okay, so in the 40400, like in the 400, it is like bad request. See, I have this particular JSON request, right? Like I need to send the JSON request for the post. Like in the post, I need to send the JSON request, right? So the JSON request, I send the bad request. Look, instead of let's say product ID, I send like product IDs. Okay, so which is like the product, the field name is incorrect, right? So something like in your URL query strings, or with the header, or whichever the body or JSON. Okay, so whichever the request that you're making, like if it is not in the standard way, like I get the bad request. Okay, and like in this 5 series, I have 500 internal server error. So this is common for each and every API. Okay, so in this particular thing, like see, if something wrong happens at the server, like whatever the code the runs at the server side has some exception. Okay, so the database is off, or the server is down, or whichever the thing. So in the king, like I wanted to return that status code, like in internal server, that particular internal server error, any can be any exception. Okay, so the database is down, or which the timeout is a error, or whichever the code errors or syntax error, whichever the things, like okay. So in this particular compile time errors, like I'm going to capture with the, I'm going to send with the 500 error. Okay, I hope you understand with the 2 series, 4 series, and 5 series. Okay, we'll connect to the Visual Studio and do a demo so that we get to understand much in detail. Okay, let me connect to my Visual Studio. See here, we are in module 1 and session 8. Okay, session 8 HTTP status codes. Okay, so I have this thing in the program.cs class file. Here is my program.cs class file. I have the models. So I have this particular product ID, name, and price. Okay, I have this repositories here. So in the repository layer is like basically it communicates to your database. Okay, so in this thing, I have this all these get a methods, update, exist, delete. Okay, I have this list of elements. To do not worry on this particular list of elements, we are working on the controller part, like how do I return the correct status codes. Okay, so here is my repository layer, like here is my static, like in the static list. Okay, which is having this list of, it is returning this particular entire list. Okay, which is returning certain get products. Okay, it is filtering with the product ID over here. Okay, and it is like adding certain new products, and it is updating, and it is checking whether that exist or not. Okay, and it is deleting and checking the name exists. Okay, so we'll do some simple operations, like in this call this methods from the controller. Okay, I'm just calling from the controller. So what I did is like I have injected this iProduct repository into my products controller. Okay, and I have already registered with the program.cs class file. So whatever this particular repositories layer, I just registered with add scope. Okay, So I hope you understand, like with the project structure, like we are going to explore more on the repositories in the coming sessions. Like I wanted to make sure like you understand this. Okay. So you already came across all this particular thing in the C sharp also. This might be very familiar, right? Like in this repository layer. So repository layer is like communicating to your database. Okay. So this is my interface, like in this particular add CRUD operations. And I have this implementations, okay, in the direct classes. Okay. So here is the model class. You already know about the model class, and you also know that here is my static, like in memory list object instead of database. Like we are having this particular product ID, mouse and keyboard. Okay. So let's do certain operations. Like I wanted to get certain data. So in this thing, so what I will do is like I will write this get API. So I will implement this particular get API. So what I will do is like if it is returns the process which if it is processing the request successfully, I will return 200 with along with the response, and if it is not found, I will return 400. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. Let's do that. If x is equal to get repository dot get ID. If it is null, I'm just returning that not found. Okay, I just not wanted to return. Okay, now okay, just remove that. Okay, if you can see here, like what I did is like I'm just calling this get API. Okay, so which is getting certain, like if it is filtering certain data. So I'm just calling this get API. Okay, so if it is found, so it is having certain if it is do not having, so it is returning some null values. I'm just returning 404. Okay, see here 404. Okay, here I'm just returning 404, and it is like if it is successfully processed, I'm just returning 200 with product data. So here is my product data. So I hope you understand, like in the status codes over here. Okay. So now let understand with create, like in this created, like when it inserts the new data, okay, the post requirement is successful. Like in this post, like if it is the process, it processed the request successfully and it is got inserted. So I will return 201. Okay. If it is already inserting the existing one, just wanted to return 409. Okay. So let's do that. Okay. So I don't wanted to insert duplicate product names. So I'm just telling that name exists, then I'm just having already exist here. Or I will say created. Okay. Yeah, if you can see, like in this name exists. I wanted to check. I have this repository layer. I have this method which has in name exist. Okay, so it will check whether the product exists in the particular list elements or not. Okay, so if it is already existing, what I'm doing is like I'm saying that this product already exists, so I don't I insert the duplicate records. Okay, so this will return 409. Okay, so the conflict will return this 409. Okay, okay response, like okay, like it will return the status code. Okay, 200. Not found will return 404. Okay, so you have to understand this area. Okay, so like in created action, so when it is like created, like in created to action, it will return 201. So we will all test this API later, or all will first two APIs will check it out. Okay, so I just put a breakpoint here. Later we'll write the remaining two endpoints, like in this thing, both the APIs I wanted to get tested. So I put a breakpoint here. I put a breakpoint here. Save everything and just this. So returning a proper status codes will tell you what happened at the server. So are we not telling that what happened at the server? So here is a server code, right? Like in this thing, like we are giving proper status codes to our consumers, okay, or the client machine, okay. See, the service is running under 7192. So if I open my Postman, 7192 is already there. See here, we are in the web API collection, like in module 1, session 8, HTTP status codes. Okay, so the routing happens with the API and controller, right? So API and the controller, like in this particular thing, I just copy this. So here is my gate API. So API slash product slash. So I just select one. Okay. So first one, like it's in this one request, it should return me the repositories. It has to return from this particular list object. Okay. So it has to return the mouse and the price is 500. Okay. So when I run this, see here it came and hit this particular thing. Like if it is like it is going to search this one element and it is coming here and it will come over here and it will send back with the 200 with the product's response. Okay. So go for F5 directly. So it is straightforward, right? See, I got the JSON response with the status code 200. See here, that is what we have written for the successful transaction. Okay, the successful request is like already one is already there. So if I'm selecting 10 over here, okay, I'm just wanted to search with the product ID 10. Like the product ID 10 is not available here in my list elements. Okay, so if I search, like what happens is like it is going to return null, right? So it is going to return null and it is saying that it's not found and it will go to 404 status code. Okay, so send this. So just go for F5. See here, the product with ID 10 is not found and the status code is 404. Okay, many of this client and communication servers, like they will, if this particular status code is found, they immediately take the screenshot and send it. Okay, so I'm just searching for the products, like for the laptops or whichever the things I'm not getting, so that the server program has to be rechecked again. Okay, so in this particular APIs, like in the communications, will have the with HTTP and HTTP response, HTTP request and response, and the status code, right? Like let go with the other implementation as well. Okay. Okay, sorry, I just need to get with create also. Okay, let's do the create endpoint also. Okay, so I go and select. Let me get that API ready. So I just want to take the response from here. So I just copy this. I wanted to post this. Okay, and I just wanted to select raw. Okay, paste this one. So this time I will pass ID key. So I will say printer and I will say 500. Okay, so I'm posting certain require, like I wanted to post this and I wanted to insert that data into the list elements. Okay, so what it is does is like if it is like in this particular ad is successful, it has to return 201. Okay, and along with the created one. Okay, so it is along with the product ID. Okay, so like in this created or created at action will return 201. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so let's directly go for F5. So 201 created. So T201 is a creation, like in having this data got inserted. So I try to insert the same data which I don't wanted, like in this thing, like if it is already existing name. So I don't wanted to insert, and I wanted to display a message like product already exists and with the status code 409. Okay, so in which is nothing but a conflict. Okay, so let's see, test it out. Okay, just go for F5. So 409 conflict arised. Okay, see, it is giving some meaningful information also, like in the product already exists. Okay, so I hope you understand with what we have done with these status codes. Okay, now let's jump into the 404 and 204, like in this particular HTTP get, HTTP delete. Okay, so after the transaction happened at the server, okay, so I deleted the record, and after deleting that record, it doesn't return anything back to this client machine, obviously, right? So in the case, I wanted to return 204, which is not content, not no content. Okay, so like if it is already deleted, then I will return 404. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, if exists, not found, or delete. Okay, no current. So save everything. See here, if you can see, like I have this particular exist method. So if it is like, if it is not exist, if it is already deleted, like I'm going to say this is 404, not 4. Okay, 404. If it is deleted, like in this particular deleted, it doesn't return back anything to the server, right? Like in thing, I'm writing no content. No content is for 204. Okay. Similarly, for like in this particular thing, internal server error. So anything like happens here, whether with your get or with a post or with your delete or anything like anywhere happens, I just wanted to have to throw the internal server error. Okay. So I have this particular common endpoint here for this testing. So I just wanted to throw a new exception. Okay. Okay. So let's do that. Sorry. I put everything in the try catch. That's the best practices. Okay. So when there is a catch exception, just I wanted to return 500 status code. So internal server error. See what I did is in this endpoint, like I just had this try catch. Okay, in this particular try, I just throwing some exception, like in whichever this transactions happen. Okay, at the particular server side, I just wanted to throw some internal server error. So here in this catch exception, I wanted to have this particular status code. Okay, so status code like with this particular in status code 500. Okay, internal server error. So in this thing like you can use this try catch anywhere in your endpoint. Okay, so which anywhere like with the endpoint, I put the try catch, and the try catch like in the catch I wanted to capture with the internal server error. So let's run this and test it out. So I just wanted to go with the delete. So first I will go select the delete here. Okay, API products ID. I wanted to delete the third. Okay, so I wanted to delete the third one. So I just I entered the product ID third. So send the request. See, I got the already I have this no form like that particular. I broke that thing, right? So I just wanted to delete the second one. Okay. So this is my in memory. Like when I just stop that particular inserted data got deleted. Okay. So here if I can see I have this particular two list of elements. Okay. So and I wanted to delete the first one. Okay. So let's see how it was. So let's say product ID one. So I'm just select this one. See here, no content return. It already deleted that one. Okay, if you can see, I put a breakpoint here. I put a breakpoint here at the delete part. Okay, and like this time I'm executing it again. Like if it is executing again, it says that that particular product ID doesn't exist, and it will return 404. Okay, this time the second time it will return 404. So okay, right. See here 404 not found. Okay, I hope you understand. Okay, so now that let's say the internal server error, like let's say I have this endpoint error. Just take this. So http get the product/error. Okay, send this request. So obviously I just throw some exception. Okay, here I wanted to capture that thing. Okay, something went wrong. Okay, so guest F5. See here it is returning the internal server error. Okay, 500 internal server error. So if you can return that particular exception that directly over here .ex.message here, like that will be more professional way, right? Like in this having this particular friendly communication with us in the server. So I hope you understand with your status codes, like in having this 2 series, 4 series, and 5 series. Okay. So that's it this for this session. Okay. If I have to recap you everything, so it's taking some time. You give me a minute. Yeah. Yeah, if you can see that status HTTP status code 2 series, okay, 4 series and 5 series. 2 series like in this thing, like in OK, in the post 201, like 204, no content, okay. The 204, 404 and 400. Like 400 is like a bad request, okay. So I send whichever the request I wanted, like in the products, I just API/products instead of products, I just selected product. Okay, in that particular thing, that particular will be a bad request, right? So in this 500, like also we have seen like internal server error. Okay, that's it for this session. I hope you understand. Okay, so now let's get to the next session, like serialization and deserialization. Okay, using this system.text.json and newton.json. Okay, so it is very important for us to understand the JSON formats and serialization and deserialization. How do I make use of these packages and make sure I'm able to serialize and deserialize this request response and all the stuff. Okay, so let's get started with our next session, serialization and deserialization. Thank you. Thanks for watching.